Hello, friends. Today I'm going to talk about my game awards. Obviously, we had the Dorito Popes Game Awards, and actually there was a couple games in there I did play this year, like Hi-Fi Rush. But the main reason I wanted to do this is not because I'm self-important enough to think people really care about my opinion or taste in games. It's mostly because the Steam sale is going on right now, and it's only going to be going on for a few days, and I know a lot of people get paid at the beginning of the month. I do too. So I wanted to get this out so you guys have a couple days to decide or maybe put some money aside. So this is going to include some games that came out this year and then a couple games that I kind of pulled out of the backlog because I actually did a pretty good job at killing some of the backlog this year. Uh, Mostly because the Steam Deck, the Steam Deck has really helped killing the backlog. In any case, we're just going to go through this. This is going to be unscripted. Um, I put up gameplay of pretty much all these games, so I figured instead of doing a really heavily edited video, which I'm more than capable of doing, it's like, why not just go over the stuff I played, and you guys can just go look up the games on my channel, and I put up like overviews or at least stream VODs that are labeled with the gameplay for these. So first off, Dawn of the Monsters got the arcade mode DLC this year. It was a long time coming. Uh, I actually really liked it. I had an early copy of it from the publisher because they know that I put up good videos for the original version of the game. Basically, it's like a roguelike mode. It also adds like New Game Plus and stuff as well. So if you like the story and you like making builds, you have that. But the roguelike mode is actually pretty good, mostly because most of the power ups are good, and I think the unique gimmick with the roguelike mode is that you can actually get more powerful than you can in the story mode. Because in the story mode, you can only have three passives on at once, whereas in the roguelike mode, you can have 10. And they have two modes, including like an actual roguelike mode, and then they have a fixed one as well. I think it was actually pretty nice. It's kind of a plus and a downside, pro and a con, that the spawns were fixed. I think that was good for scoring consistency, but it did kind of lose its luster a little bit just because you could kind of just memorize the spawns like a real beat 'em up. But at the same time, you could get good at it and memorize it. So it actually is kind of like an actual arcade game in that regard. I definitely think they should have added a mode where maybe the spawns are randomized just to give it a little bit more replay value. But yeah, I can't recommend this game enough. Um, the main problem with the base game was just that it just didn't have any replay value. There wasn't a new game plus or anything at all, and they put a lot of effort into the story. As a tokusatsu fan, I actually did not skip the cutscenes. I did read it, and it was a good story, but you could tell that they put too much focus into that, and the video game part of the product kind of faltered as a result. So the arcade mode DLC essentially fixes that because it gives you more New Game Plus modes that you can use for the story, and then you also get a roguelike mode as well. I actually rank pretty high on the leaderboards. I played it quite a bit. Maybe on the kitty sitting streams I'll revisit this later. Double Dragon Rise of the Dragons. This definitely wasn't like the best game that I played this year. I did enjoy it. I hope that maybe more content will be coming to it soon. I actually liked the combat quite a bit. My main pet peeves with this game that I think prevents me from playing it more is two things. The first is the boss hit stun is random. This game has probably the most obvious example of gotcha pull hit stun, where like you can do the same combo to a boss or attempt to do it like 10 times in a row and it'll only work like 40 or 50% of the time. It's a really big problem. I get that they didn't want people to like get too good at the game and stuff, but it just doesn't feel satisfying when you land a punish and the game just kind of, beats you up over it because you literally get beaten up. You get hit by their invincible attack, their burst attack. That was one thing I didn't like about it, and also this game kind of has the same faults that the previous game Devil's Dare did, where they have the whole system where the levels scale in length and difficulty. And the bosses do as well the farther you get into the game. The problem is the gimmicks just get in the way, and this was the same problem I had with Devil's Dare as well, which was Eventually, you just get to the point where you just do the same route over and over, the one that annoys you the least, and that's just what you keep doing. And I feel like maybe they should have scaled that back a little bit. I think they think it's good for replay value in the long run, but I played their previous game quite a bit as well. I played both versions of that. I did a review for those games as well, and it's the same problem. You find the gimmicks that really piss you off, and then you just play the game in a way to avoid them. And the fact that they put so much work into making all that pixel art and the revamped bosses and stuff, it just kind of falls flat. It doesn't really go anywhere just because if it pisses you off, you're just going to avoid it. And I think that was the main problem with this game. I hope that they will add like I don't think more characters would even really fix this game for me. I think mostly they need to make it so hit stun is consistent. Make it so that there's some kind of system in place that you can't just combo the bosses to death unless you're like really skilled at the game, like Streets of Rage 4, for instance, or make it so that there's some kind of like survival mode or just something that you can play that does not have the gimmicks because the combat in the game is quite fun, especially when you get the hang of it. But the gotcha pull hit stun and the gimmicks in the levels really bog it down. Now, despite that, I still really enjoyed the game. You see here, I got all the achievements, so it's not like I hate the game. It's just that it kind of unfortunately has the exact same problems that the previous game did, where the gimmicks and the stuff that they did to try to stand out really get in the way, and the more you play the game, the more it's going to annoy you. But I think the game actually did decently well, so maybe there is new content coming or something. But yeah, this game has been in bundles a lot, so if you don't want to hop in on this now, you might want to check like Wario64 on Twitter and look at the stuff that he puts up. Sometimes he puts up the. There's been a couple bundles for this on Fanatical. You could probably get the game from there and maybe hope that they'll have new content. But yeah, I did all the achievements in like 15 hours, and I just didn't really want to play the game past that because of the aforementioned issues. But if you're fiending for a new beat 'em up, you played like Streets 4 and stuff to death already. I think Dawn of the Monsters with the DLC and Double Dragon Rise of the Dragons, you can't go wrong with them. Let's see what else here. Ninja Warriors once again actually arrived on PC after 3 years. I can't recommend this game enough. The PC port is actually the best version, just because of two things. First is they allow you to uncap the frame rate, which is nice. I mean, this isn't like the most execution heavy beat 'em up. You don't really benefit that much from having a higher frame rate, but it is nice to have that. It's also got Steam Deck support. I can vouch for being able to stream this game and having no performance loss. And then also with Parsec and Steam Remote Play together, you can play this with friends. The console version does not have online play in any capacity, so I can't recommend this game enough. You can check out my videos about it if you want to know more. I don't want to spend too much time on stuff I've covered too much already. Tales of mgin War. I don't know if this game is on sale, but I've actually enjoyed this game quite a bit. It's kind of like a hunting game and beat 'em up hybrid. It's like the gameplay is like a beat 'em up, but then like they have the crafting and the armor and stuff that you could would more commonly find in like Tokiden, Monster Hunter, Wild Hearts, stuff like that. Uh, this game's a little rough around the edges. It seems like it's only made by a couple people. It is a little concerning that the last update was like almost 6 months ago, but hopefully the game will get finished. I got 15 hours out of it. I didn't really see a point in really grinding too much more, and I'm probably gonna power creep it soon. But yeah, this game was surprisingly fun. It definitely needs a lot of work. I think the main problem with this game is just how many of the bosses have hyper armor when you have like a whole tag combo system in this game. But other than that, I think for the asking price, it's actually not bad, even if it's not on sale. Um, let's see here. Hi-Fi Rush actually was at the Dorito Popes Awards. This game was really good. I think it did a good job of kind of fusing rhythm games and character action games together. Um, I'd say the only fault I really had with it was the fact that the campaign was kind of a slog to play through more than once because there are a lot of unskippable cutscenes and forced walking sections and stuff. But they did add a Bloody Palace. There's a Bloody Palace after you beat the game, and then they added a turbo mode and a roguelike mode. So uh, at the game's launch, you definitely could complain that hey the campaign is a little bit of a drag to get through. It's not like it gives you a lot of overbearing puzzles or anything. It's just it can be a little bit slow paced, and there's a lot of stuff that you can't skip. But they added pretty much straight gameplay modes. They basically have three bloody palaces in this game. They have the rhythm tower, which is the basic one, and then they have the turbo mode one, which a lot of people wanted turbo mode for this game, but due to how the game works, where everything moves on the beat and functions on the beat, they couldn't really do that. So they just made a straight separate turbo mode bloody palace. And then there's a roguelike one as well. You know how much I love action roguelikes and how we've gotten so many existing games with good combat like this just getting roguelike modes added on. I can't recommend this game enough. Also, in a year of really shitty PC ports, this port was perfect. There's no shader compilation stutter, no problems at all. The only problem I had was the last couple levels when I was playing on the Steam Deck at my kitty sitting job were kind of laggy, but other than that, it was completely perfect. So, on the basis of that, just actually being a PC port that was taken seriously, I can't recommend the game enough. We need to do some more gameplay for this, but with all the stuff that's been going on with just the constant onslaught of games, I haven't gotten around to it. What else we got here? Let's see here. I kind of got to go through this slowly because I don't have a lot of things installed right now. I need to get a new drive. Definitely not Wild Hearts. Oh, this is the wrong version of the game, but X Dive Offline was also really good too. I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was really cool that uh, they made an offline version of the game, and some people were kind of misguided and complaining about it, saying it's too expensive and stuff. The game has a lot of content, and I thought it was enjoyable. I did almost all the achievements and stuff, and more importantly, the game is built in Unity, so there's like lots of mods. People have added new characters, they've added new gear, they put like the raid bosses back in the game and stuff. So I know for a fact this game is on sale right now. I can't recommend it enough. Like, look, it's not gonna be the best Mega Man game ever. It's not gonna replace X4 and Zero 03 in your tier list, but it is a good game. Just the basis, it's a decent Mega Man game. They took out all the progression blockers. You can pretty much consume all the content in like 20, 30 hours, and then there's so many mods as well, so there's lots of replay value here. Also, it works perfectly on the Steam Deck too, so which I would argue is probably the best way to play the game because the game doesn't really support like mouse support or something. Actually, it does support mouse, but using it with the controller, the menus are really awkward. So I actually played the big chunk of this on the Steam Deck. I can't recommend it enough. Pirate Warriors 4 DLC, I've actually really enjoyed. I think it fixes a lot of the problems of the base game, namely just not having anything to do in the end game, and all the really poorly designed characters that were in the base game. The all the DLC characters so far have been great for the most part, and the new soul map and the treasure log, or whatever it's called, special log, I think, really adds a lot of depth to the game, giving you like old school PS2 era Muso levels to go through, where you have to be efficient and know what you're doing and use routing and stuff. I know a lot of people have really missed that in Muso games. I feel like if you're serious about missing that, you should be playing this game right now and buy the DLC because it actually adds a lot of that to do in they give you a lot more build diversity with having more skill points, and then there's also new passive skills as well that really help to kind of diversify builds and just make the game more fun to play. The next DLC batch is actually coming out on, I believe, the 11th, so we will definitely check that out. Gravity Circuit, definitely one of the sleeper hits of this year. One of my favorite games this year. This game is basically it's like Mega Man Zero with the recoil rod or the chain rod basically implemented into the core gameplay loop. It also has melee combat. It also kind of copies the combo system from Mega Man Zero as well. I can't recommend this game enough. They actually just did a major update a couple days ago, which actually adds like more costumes that have buffs and stuff. They also added a lot of quality of life features. This game has New Game Plus as a speed run mode. It feels just really good to play. I do feel the grappling hook is a little bit cumbersome to use, but other than that, the movement feels really good. And one of the things I really like in platformers is having really good movement. Um If the platformer feels slow or laggy or it just doesn't feel like you can go fast, I'm generally not interested, and I was very pleasantly surprised with this game. I had been following them on Twitter for many, many years, and I bought the game pretty much the moment it came out. Uh, I think in a year where there's been so many big games, vying for dozens of hours of your time, it's kind of nice to have a game that you could just beat in one sitting. I know that might not be everyone's cup of tea, but we're all adding a ton of stuff to our backlogs now. I think if you're looking for something cheap to play, that's not going to be a big time investment, but if you want to get into speed runs and challenge runs and stuff, the achievements are actually pretty challenging. I only got like barely half of them, so if you're an achievement hunter, the achievements are pretty hardcore. I can't recommend this game enough. I know it is on sale right now, so I definitely would recommend getting that just for something cheap to play. What else we got here? The Awakener Forgotten Oath. This one's kind of hard to recommend just because they've changed the game drastically, and I know that I put off doing an overview for this. I've had a lot of questions about this game, and it's kind of a blessing in disguise I put it off because they've like completely overhauled the game. I think the last patch was actually relatively good for the game, but it does still have some problems, namely uh, just enemies having too much health, build diversity not being very interesting, and stuff like that. But they do seem to be listening to feedback. I don't know if this is on sale right now, but uh, this game is actually pretty impressive. The graphics are quite good for a game made by like a handful of people. It's also Unreal Engine 5, and it has no shader compilation stutter, which is pretty embarrassing when you consider how much problems we've had with Unreal Engine this past year. Stuff like Jedi Survivor and things like that barely working. I think they deserve credit for that. They actually made an Unreal Engine game that actually has a fair amount going on. I mean, look, it's not big, gigantic open worlds, but considering it's a combat action game with a lot going on and it just works, I think that should be commended. I hope that they'll find a more consistent direction with the game because the first version of the game and the one that's currently available, they just did a major update a couple of days ago. Uh, the game just feels completely different. It's like they don't seem to have a lot of idea or like set in stone foundation for what they want the game to be. But I've played it for 15 hours. It's quite enjoyable. Just don't expect it to have the depth that you would expect from stuff like Hades and things like that. But you do get pretty decent character action combat. It's not going to be the deepest thing out there, but for a roguelike, I definitely think the combat in this game is really solid, and I hope to see them do more with it. They seem to be committed to fixing the game, so maybe there'll be like more characters and more build diversity and stuff. I probably feel pretty comfortable to do an overview for this now that they just pushed out yet another major balance change and quality of life updates. It kind of would have been pointless if I did one when I wanted to initially, just because the game is completely different now. But yeah, this actually was one of my favorite action roguelikes I played this year. And speaking of roguelikes, you got Blazblue Entropy Effect here. This was definitely one of my favorite games this year. I've been really looking for a new roguelike to play with good combat, and those are arguably very hard to find. I think that early access for this game was like more polished than a lot of early other games I have in here that left early access. Like the 1.0 of those early access games was worse than this game. This game is fully releasing in about a month from today, so I hope that they'll add a significant amount of content. I'd say the main problem with this game would be just the story is uninteresting. It really feels like the robots are just kind of there to as a means to an end, and they have nothing to do with Blazblue at all. The Blazblue characters are essentially just mindless avatars that you play as, and there's all these robots in this cyberpunk society, and you just don't really care about what they're doing. I think in the developers' defense, they probably were not given any kind of permission to actually continue the story, which happens a lot in collabs for games. Like Nier is in a lot of gotcha games and stuff, and I think they're told to like not write any story at all. So I think in their defense, they're trying to tie things together, but they probably have some kind of weird clause where they can't like actually continue the Blazblue story or anything, or maybe they don't have access to the voice actors or whatever. But you can mash through all the text, and it's one of the best action roguelikes on the market right now. I will definitely be doing more runs of this, probably before and after 1.0. What else we got here? Helvetti just got its major update. This was the game that I got sponsored for the Steam Deck. Can't recommend this game enough. I never really wanted to shill stuff that I wouldn't use without being paid, and that's pretty much what happened with this. I really enjoy this game a lot. You can tell I'm not a shill because I've got like almost 35 hours played. It's a really solid character action roguelike. I'd say the only thing I really didn't like about this game was just the mage character is not very fun, and then a couple of the bosses have hyper armor and they're just like not really fun to interact with in general. But other than that, this game was really enjoyable, and they added a lot of new content. They added like whole new moveset upgrades and stuff. There's new items and things. This game is really solid. If you're looking for a action roguelike that's not going to break the bank and has deeper, more involved combat than what you're expecting, from the genre, I can't recommend this game enough. It's definitely worth the money. It might not have as much content as the more popular roguelikes, but I feel like the gameplay makes up for that. It's because you get so many fun enemies to interact with. The characters all play differently. Um, it never feels like you need to get certain items to succeed. The game is actually balanced that you can just beat it with a complete stock character, not picking anything up, which I think is one of the things I tend to really consider when I recommend action roguelikes. How much does the RNG, does it just make the game more fun to play and give you more variety, or are you forced to interact with it for success? And I feel like they really struck a good balance here. And yeah, definitely one of the best games I played this year. What else we got here? Looks like we're approaching the end of stuff that I played this year. Grace Counter GM, if you ever played stuff like Cyveriar, any of the shmups that have grazing, this game is really fun just because it gives you just a really powerful mechanic that's very fun to interact with. It's a very good entry level shmup, meaning that you can probably 1cc it on the base difficulty, the base two difficulties with like minimal effort, but then there's harder difficulties as well. I think they did a really good job with the accessibility, just giving you a really powerful mechanic. If you interact with it enough, you can clear it pretty easily, but there's still plenty of challenging things to do in the game as well. I'm not the best at shmups. I'm not like terrible at them. You guys have seen me play shmups, and I'm not super play tier, but I am slightly above average. And this one felt like the sweet spot for me in terms of difficulty and just overall fun factor. I really enjoyed it. So definitely try to cop this if you can, if you like shmups. This was not a game that came out this year, but I did finish Star Ocean Divine Force a couple months ago. I thought it was pretty enjoyable. It definitely had some issues with just feeling like they ran out of money. The move sets weren't very large. The gear system was actually probably the best it's ever been, but still a massive grind. You're still encouraged to just save scum constantly, and then you can't carry any of it over. There's no New Game Plus. So it really feels like either you sit there and save scum for hours, or you do the sensible thing and buy the game on PC and just cheat the gear in, because it's not engaging to just sit there and reset over and over, but considering that the materials are finite, or not finite, but hard to get, there's no reason not to, and I felt like I spent too much time doing that. I felt like if they had done some post-launch updates with like a New Game Plus or something, the game would have been a little bit better on the replay value, but I felt pretty burnt out after one run, even though I do want to go back eventually and maybe like just cheat some combo gear in and probably try to get good at the combo system. But other than that, I don't know if I could really recommend this game. It's definitely not one I'm like really super enthused about, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was way better than people gave it any credit for. The port is mostly fixed. The port was really bad at launch, but they removed Denuvo and they did like one or two patches for the game. It's in a pretty good spot now. I think it actually performs and looks better than the PS5 version. So I did enjoy this game. I did play it for like 45 hours, but I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're really fiending for a JRPG. I did finish the Star Ocean 2 remake as well. I did not grow up with this game, so my judgment of this game is basically just around what it is now instead of what it was in my head when I played it 25 years ago. I did not play this game as a kid. I thought that this remake was really good. I think the success of this game is a really good thing for all of us because I think we're going to get more remakes like this in the near future. Obviously, we just got the Mario RPG remake recently as well. Like, not every JRPG remake needs to be this FF7 remake tier thing where it's like hundreds of millions of dollars and it takes 10 years to put out the whole game and stuff. Like, you can still put out faithful remakes like this. This game does not change the story at all. I mean, they even went the extra mile and they didn't nerf any of the exploits to break the game, and they added more as well. uh, just a faithful remake. I mean, maybe it's to a fault to some people. Some people didn't like how short it was. It's like, well, you got to consider one thing is that they didn't want to make this huge undertaking of a project like the FF7 remake, where it's probably going to be another 5 years before the whole thing is done. And also, a lot of the padding is just removed by default, even without any design changes on their own, just because the PS1 load times are gone. There's no random encounters. Going in and out of battles is instant, even on like the Switch version. So that's going to cut down the game time as well. I did feel like the combat, the stuff that they tried to add to the game, didn't really mesh very well. Like they had a counter and stuff in the game that you could use it, but you weren't invincible during it. You couldn't chain back into it, so it felt like you got punished for trying to interact with the new systems that they added. But it was a nice turn your brain off RPG. I definitely did enjoy it, but it just didn't have the mechanical depth of like the Tales games here. So it didn't really feel like playing it more than twice. But I can't recommend this game enough. I think we need to support stuff like this, so maybe we can start getting more remakes like this. Like Tales was like one of the first JRPG series to actually start doing smaller scale remakes like this. They remade Innocence and Hearts, and then they remade Destiny as well. Now, Destiny is kind of a lot like this, where they did change some story elements in Destiny, but for the most part, it was a one-to-one remake, but just with massively better quality of life and graphics and gameplay. I'd argue that remake is a lot better than this, just on the basis of the gameplay is much better. But those are smaller scale remakes that maybe a lot of people don't even know exist. But I'm all for that kind of thing coming back. Just one-to-one remake, make the game flow a little bit better, maybe remove some of the padding. Obviously, no PS1 load times or anything. Make the graphics better, improve the combat, and it doesn't need to be this huge AAA masterpiece. uh, for that aspect, or for that regard, I definitely was very happy to support this, even if I thought that the new stuff that they added to the battle system was very jank and didn't really work properly, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. But if you like builds and stuff, I think this game is definitely worth playing, although it does kind of suffer from the same problems that Star Ocean 6 did, where you have to save scum a lot, and it just kind of makes you wonder, like, why don't I just cheat this gear in? Because saving and reloading for hours on end is not engaging gameplay. It's a waste of time, and we all have so much stuff in our backlogs already. I think it would have been better if they just added some kind of actual formula that you could use to actually get what you want, but I guess they want it to be RNG in some way. But yeah, both of these games definitely had a problem with the RNG. They gave you like lots of cool builds and interactions and stuff that you can make, but then it's either you grind out hundreds of the materials or you just save scum. And obviously, save scumming is more logical and less insane to do. But you're still just watching a bunch of load screens over and over. And I definitely think if the Star Ocean series continues, they need to find some kind of better way to do the item creation because it shouldn't just evolve around, hey, you know, save and reload 1,000 times to get what you want, which just doesn't make any sense. But the game was still really enjoyable. I can't recommend it enough. If anything, you guys should support stuff like this. Like I said, I think there's a lot of JRPGs from even the early 2000s, late 2000s, like Tales of Hearts and Innocence got remakes a while back, about 10, 12 years ago, and those remakes were really good. They weren't like AAA masterpieces, but they fixed the majority of the problems with the games, and they didn't really mess with the story too much either. They just straight up felt like they replaced the originals, and I think it's cool that we have more stuff like this now. Long, I definitely have a complicated relationship with this game. Mostly just because it was terrible at launch. The port was bad. The combat was just so dumbed down. There was too much RNG. It just didn't feel like it had anything going for it besides just being another really cool mid-budget Three Kingdoms game. But they've improved this game so much since it came out, and I think it's in a much better spot now. Unfortunately, the last patch for the final DLC is a bit of a mixed bag with adding more layers of RNG and just an excessive grind. But I think if you can get this game for sale, whether you wait or check a key shop or something, I think it's worth playing. When it first came out, I hated it. I actually pretty much banished the game to my backlog until like a couple months ago, about 4 or 5 months ago, and you can tell right here I played 115 hours. I wouldn't do that for a game I hated, so I think that they've done a good job. I think my main concern right now is that the port still has problems, and then also this latest or final patch has really our final content expansion has really introduced a lot of things that people really dislike about the game, like all the RNG and like how much they're expecting you to play this game to grind. I think the game is a lot better than it was at launch, but I don't know if it's 800 hours of grinding good. I definitely don't think the combat can really carry it for that long, but um, it is what it is. I think that they did a pretty good job listening to feedback. That's one of the things I always like about Team Ninja games is that they might be rough around the edges. The ports might suck. There might be a lot of really baffling, like just lack of polish, but they do listen to feedback and they fix about as much as they can before they're told to cut off support. There is supposed to be one more patch for this game, so I'm hoping that they will fix some of those issues. I've kind of been busy with other stuff, but we'll definitely do some more of the end game grind in this. Probably on streams. I don't really think it's interesting enough to put in a exclusive video, but we'll probably play this more on streams until the next couple games come out. Other than that, I'm trying to think. I don't really think there's much else really. I think that's basically it. Shin Kamen Rider Rumble as well. I really enjoyed. Uh, it's definitely not the deepest or most impressive roguelike, but I thought that it was really well balanced. The fact that you could beat it with no grinding. The combat is simple but responsive. Definitely could have used more moves and stuff, but I actually really enjoyed that game as well. Other than that, that's basically about the majority of the games I played this year. So I hope this helps. I know a lot of this stuff didn't get mentioned at the Game Awards, but that's about a half hour long video. I think that's basically most of what I actually played to completion this year. That was either new or backlogged. I think I had a pretty good gaming year. I definitely did have some bad luck with shitty PC ports, but pretty much anybody who did gaming on PC this year probably had some bad luck with PC ports. I managed to dodge most of the really bad stuff like Jedi Survivor, but Wolong is really bad among other things. I think maybe next year is probably going to be worse, but at least I've got my computer upgraded for it. So if you're interested in any of those games, you can go ahead and search for them on my channel. I did pretty extensive content on almost all of them. Some of them might be in stream VODs, so it admittedly might be a little bit hard to find, but I should have some of them named and you can check them out. I did do overviews for the majority of these games as well, so if you want to not watch a whole ass VOD and you just want to like get a quick little review of the game, definitely check it out. I hope that helps everyone. Remember the sales are expiring really soon, so if you got the spare cash, you got until January 4th at 10 a.m. Pacific time to buy all this stuff. I know it seems like a lot, but a lot of those games are actually like dirt cheap. So if you can grab a couple of them, you'll probably be occupied for a few months until all the big AAA stuff comes out. I hope that helps everybody. Sorry I got this out a little bit late. I was gonna postpone it longer, and then I kind of realized tonight, like, wait, the sales are starting to expire. So hopefully you guys got some Christmas money or something. You can probably cop a couple of these games. And yeah, here's my little game awards for 2023. There's a couple other games I played in here. I've actually been enjoying Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which I guess still has some DLC coming. I'll probably play through this on stream. I don't think it will take too long to finish. And then I I did get Penny Blood Hellbound 2 days ago. I've actually been enjoying this quite a bit, but I'm not really at the point where I can make an overview. I don't think it's officially launching on Steam for like a while, so I don't know how much effort I want to put into an overview for this when they're apparently going to be changing the game drastically. Um, I did get a couple new games, but they're not at overview condition yet. So I think from this point, I'll probably be doing some Steam Deck videos. I got a bunch of mods to work. I got a couple benchmarks to do as well, and then from there, we're probably just gonna be riding out the backlog and some other stuff. Because I've had Kakarot for a while, but I just kind of pulled it out of the backlog randomly with the mod. You may remember I put up a video yesterday showing one of the combat mods that actually makes the game really fun. So probably do some backlog blitz for a bit, and then we'll check out some of the new releases coming out. Thanks for watching, everybody.